Hi everyone, thank you for joining the charity panel webinar today. We're really excited for it. We are just going to give it a minute or two to give people a chance to join the webinar, and then we'll get started. Hi everyone. We're just going to give it one more minute to give people a chance to join, and then we will get started. But thank you for joining us today for the charity panel webinar. We are really looking forward to hearing from our panelists today and sharing their ideas and experiences with you, all of you. Great. I think we can get started now. Firstly, I want to welcome all of you to the webinar today. It is the charity panel webinar. It's one of probably one of the most popular webinars and one which we always look forward to as well. We're really glad to be joined by some of the award winners from last year. So we have Maureen from Hearts Young Homeless, Emma from Just Life Foundation, and Dan from British Liver Trust, all joining us today and sharing their experiences from last year with all of you, and just giving their opinions and your opportunity to ask them questions. We do have the chat function available for everyone to use today. So if you want to introduce yourself to other attendees, share maybe LinkedIn profiles, network that way and share ideas, please use the chat function at the bottom, on the right-hand side of your Zoom panel. Please just make sure the to setting is set to everyone so everyone can see what you're saying. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel. That's where I'll be picking up the questions to ask the panelists in the Q&A portion of the webinar. And yeah, please avoid asking the questions in the chat function just because sometimes we can miss them. And if you have any hearing impairments or need the captions for any reason, if you click on the More button at the bottom of your Zoom panel, there should be the option to turn on captions if you need that. And finally, a reminder, we are recording this webinar, so we will be posting the recording on our YouTube channel in the next few days, so you can rewatch it or share it with colleagues. With that in mind, I think we're ready to get started. So first of all, I will introduce Maureen from Hearts Young Homeless, who will talk to you about what they did for their campaign last year and how successful it was, and they won an award because of how successful their campaign was. So over to you, Maureen.
Thanks, Sahil. And yeah, hi, everybody. I'm just about to share my screen. So hopefully everybody will be able to see it. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. So my name is Maureen, and I'm the Corporate Partnerships Officer at Hearts Young Homeless. We're a homelessness charity based in Hertfordshire, and we cover the whole county. We're based in a little town called Hatfield, but we cover the whole county, which is pretty massive, actually. And we support young people between the ages of 16 and 24 who are facing homelessness. So as Sahil says, we were voted Best UK Charity in the Big Give Awards last year. We were absolutely thrilled to win that award. And last year was our third year of taking part in the Big Give. After 2 successful years and seeing our support grow as a result of that. We made the decision last year to increase our target again. So we increased it to £24,000, knowing that the need for our services was greater than ever. And we stewarded our supporters throughout the year to gain an even better understanding of how they like to give and who we could approach for our campaign. So one of the first things that we did was about securing our pledgers for the campaign. Because obviously without them you can't take part, so really important. And we so as the Corporate Partnerships Officer, I went out to a number of our corporate companies to talk to them about the Big Give, one of whom had donated through the Big Give before in Giving Week, but they supported us, a very, very warm supporter, but it supported us in lots of different ways. And they were really keen to be a pledger. So that was great. So so that was good. That was good there. And then we had another supporter who had been a pledger in the previous year and again was interested in doing it for a second year. So that was great. And then another supporter who who'd sort of lapsed in terms of support, another business supporter. I went to talk to them about the Big Give for the first time ever, and they said yes. So I'm really thrilled to get 3 yeses. We did have a plan B, so we had a fourth and a fifth person to ask, and we also involved our board and our trustees at this stage, because if some of our supporters had said no, then they would hopefully step in and maybe give us some other ideas about who we could approach at that point. And we did this very early on in the year to allow our corporate supporters to be able to plan that money, so that they knew when they were going to give that and their support, and obviously sort of share that with the rest of their business as well. And one of the things that we did differently last year for the first time was we went out to 3 pledgers. So we spread the cost more, because we were really aware of the cost of living and the impact that was having on everybody. So we shared that across 3, which was for the first time. We'd always gone out to just 2. So yeah, so we did that as well. And we've done the same again this year to help spread that cost and make it a bit more sort of palatable as well. So in terms of the sort of our pre-launch, so to identify sort of our target audience, really, we looked at trends and giving habits of those who'd given previously to our campaign, including our regular supporters. And then we looked at how we'd communicate with each of them before we launched, recognising that obviously different communication methods work for different supporters. So we set up our own page on our website. So that was all about the Big Give and all about our campaign and how you could get involved. So basically, it's like, you could go there and find out about what the Big Give was about, what the money would fund, how you could donate. Yeah, so lots and lots of information. There was also some videos on there. There was the celebrity video, as well as some case studies that we'd produced as part of our campaign. So lots and lots of different information, yeah, that we put on our website. And we shared that with our supporters as well. So we shared that through things like newsletters, etc., so that they knew it was there and they could go to it. We also had a big social media campaign. So obviously the Big Give is an online campaign, and we know that social media channels are a vital tool throughout the process. So we began sharing our campaign 6 weeks prior to launch. So we are doing that. We're starting that this week. A bit scary. And, we started by doing things like thanking our pledgers, thanking our champion. And yeah, and we were really thrilled to be matched with a champion, again, the Gillian Handrousing Trust. So, we appreciate that there are lots of charities out there. So we're really thrilled to be chosen by them. And then we also shared things like parts of our campaign. We reminded our supporters that their donation could be doubled, so with lots and lots of information, and we sort of just drip fed that in the lead up to launch. And then we also did 4 weeks to go, 3 weeks to go, 2 weeks to go, that sort of thing, to gain momentum and sort of, sort of excitement and interest. We also have a newsletter that goes out to all of our supporters, and it goes out to about 1,000 of our supporters, so that's a big audience, and a lot of them were individual supporters, as well as community ones and corporate supporters, so a wide range. And we did that in October, and then again in November, just before launch. So yeah, so lots and lots of different ways that we shared it. We also did a postal mailing to community groups such as churches, Rotary clubs, and lots of individual givers as well. So we did that 2 weeks prior to launch, and we send them a letter explaining what the campaign's about, as well as a lovely little postcard that they could keep, and they could either have it on their fridge or on their desk, so that they've got it to hand and they know the dates and that sort of thing, and the links to our website, etc. So yeah, so we did sort of all of that. And we also kept up to date with all our staff, bringing them, making sure they were part of the campaign, and our trustees and our board as well, so that they knew where we were each stage. We then actually, as part of our comms plan and giving week, we did a 15 minutes to go MailChimp, which was sent out to all our newsletter audiences, so that basically it was a convenient way for our supporters just to have that link fresh in their inbox, ready for launch. So and it's quite a nice thing. We've got one individual supporter who loves being the first one to donate, so it's the thing that he likes most, that as well as the doubling. So yeah, so he's always sort of first in, which is great. Yeah, so that's what we did. And then we had a really fantastic video done by our chief exec, sort of live in the office. So he was walking up down the office whilst all our staff were working, and he was sort of thanking supporters as well as saying, we really need your support. And that got lots and lots of likes and shares. So that was great. And that worked really well. We also then shared sort of 2 powerful case studies that we put together as part of our campaign as well. So they got lots of likes as well. So really, really important to have those if you can. We thanked each supporter as soon as we got a donation in. So we did that if we could via email. So if we had agreement to do that, then we would do that by email, and that would come from the person in the team that knew them best. So if it was a corporate support, it would be myself. If it was a community, it would be our community officer, etc. So we did it sort of that way. So it was really personal. And then if we didn't have access to their email, we couldn't send them an email, we sent them a letter, and we posted that out that same day so that they would get it really quickly. We were really keen for that for them to feel really thanked for donating. And then we did lots of really nice thank you videos from the wider range of our staff. So we'd done those, we pre-done those, and we put those out every time sort of we got donations, and then gave people an update on if we'd reached 25% or 50% of our target, that sort of thing. So we did lots of little videos and boomerangs and all those kind of things. So they're always good fun. And then post sort of campaign, as you can see, we hit our target. In fact, we raised nearly £28,000, which was fantastic. And we then did some analysis on where that money came from, so that it could inform us as to what we'd learned, and then take that into the next year's campaign. So the kind of key things that we learned, as I say, one of the things we did differently was spread the money across our pledgers. We also learned from the previous year that we had to have a much wider range of social media posts, because in the second year of doing it, we hit our target very early on, and then we didn't really have much in terms of social media stuff to then put out, but we wanted people to keep giving. So we were super prepared for that last year, so that we then kept encouraging people to donate, even though we'd maxed out on our doubling. So yeah, and we did a lot around individual donors, because that had been our experience of people who are the majority who donate to our campaign. Yeah, and yeah, so we did all of that. We also did something around our pledgers. We put together some social media packs, which was something that they'd requested, so that they could sort of send out their own posts about the campaign, etc., and why they supported us. So that was something new we'd done. And yeah, and taking part in the awards. We've done that for 3 years. We're definitely going to do it again. We'd really advocate it if you can, because obviously winning was fantastic, and it got us lots and lots of great sort of social media out of it. And yeah, our board and our trustees were absolutely thrilled that we'd won. So yeah, as were all our staff. So yeah, so hopefully that helps, and yeah, gives you some insight into how we approached our campaign. So that's me.
That is a really great presentation. Thank you, Maureen, and some really helpful tips for attendees, I'm sure. I really like the idea of actually also involving your pledgers and sending them a sharing pack to help them share the campaign amongst their network. So that is a really great tip. So thank you, Maureen. We'll now move on to Emma from the Just Life Foundation, who will be talking to what they did last year and how they won an award because their campaign was exceeded their target.
Great. Can everyone hear me okay, I presume? Awesome. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that.
Yep.
Great. Awesome. So I am Emma. I'm Just Life's communications coordinator, and we are a national homelessness charity advocating for people living in temporary accommodation. So for people that don't know, temporary accommodation is temporary housing for people who are experiencing homelessness, while their local council helps them to find a more permanent solution. So this can include B&Bs, hostels, and other forms of temporary housing. So we work with people who are hidden homeless. It's a side of homelessness that a lot of the general public don't see. So that's an angle that we tap into quite a lot when it comes to our communications. As our donor database is predominantly made up of people living in Brighton and Hove and Greater Manchester, we choose to focus on 4 of our core local projects in both of those different areas. And that gives our supporters the opportunity to support things depending on what their interests are. So for example, in Manchester, we have a project supporting prison leavers. So if people are interested in that side of homelessness, then they have that opportunity. And then in Brighton, we have a befriending scheme. So if people are more interested in combating any mental health related challenges or loneliness, then they have that option as well. So we raised £43,000. Our target is 20,000, which is doubled to 40. So yeah, we were so happy that we were able to meet that target again. And I'm gonna talk about our communications. So I'm going to focus on 3 of our main channels, which are social media, the website, and our newsletter. And I'll talk about what we did before and after the campaign. Sorry, before and during. So firstly, our website, what we did before is change the homepage banner image on our website so that it had an automated countdown. So every time someone landed on our homepage, they could see the Big Give campaign and see that we were involved in it, and then see how long it was until the actual donation week. We also created an impact section, as you can see here, and that summarized the campaign, summarized each of our projects, gave a quick before and after story, and included videos from support workers explaining our work, a few impact quotes and a few statistics. We also invested in a photo shoot to capture new images of our team in action supporting people, and that enabled us to put a face to the stories that we were conveying and help our audience connect with the people that we support. We also applied for a Google ad grant. So for anyone, I mean, everyone here is probably from a registered charity. So if you don't have that already, I'd really recommend doing so. It's basically, you get, I think, $10,000 in free ad spend from Google. So those, for people that don't know, are the paid adverts that you see at the top of a Google search listing. So we use those to drive traffic to this impact section on our website. And it's just a free way of getting more traffic to your website. So if you haven't applied for that already, I definitely recommend doing that. And then during the campaign, we made sure that all of our big call to action buttons were redirected to the Big Give website. We also updated our impact section 3 times a day to show the total amount that was raised. And then for social media beforehand, we branded all of our profile pages. So we changed our cover images to be branded to Big Give content, all of the links on our different social media pages linked to the impact section of our website. And we chose to focus on 1 project per week. So we did a mixture of stories, statistics, and videos. We did much fewer posts last year than in previous years, but we felt that they were more impactful because we really honed in on our best statistics and our best quotes. So here's an example of something that we shared. So 70% of people who were part of our befriending scheme said that they felt an improvement to their mental health. So any statistics like that that show your impact, I think, are much more impactful than things that we'd done previously, where we talk about maybe how many how many mental health focused actions we took didn't really make much sense to people. I think this is much more clear. We also did countdown graphics alongside specific donation examples. And then during the campaign week, we really wanted to center the voices of people we support. So we focused on quotes alongside practical donation information. We also did day in the life videos, which I think worked really well to show what our support workers got up to in a day. Those are still on our Instagram page, so you can have a look at those. But they really just showed our team behind the scenes doing a variety of important tasks, such as completing referral forms, checking up on clients at their accommodation, dropping off food shopping. I think it was just a really nice way to show what people are doing on the ground. We also did a Facebook, I think we did one Facebook advert to promote our 10th anniversary video, which I'd really recommend doing. So the Big Give coincided with our 10th anniversary in Brighton. So we were doing a big video around that to show our impact over the past 10 years in Brighton. And we promoted that on Facebook. I think we only spent £14 and it's reached quite a lot of people. And got quite a lot of clicks to the Big Give campaign page. So yeah, I'd really recommend doing that if you have budget for it. And then for our newsletter, we use World Homelessness Day to announce our participation in the Big Give and invite everyone to fundraising events. And then a month before the campaign, we shared a mental health focused story alongside a link to our pledge form. We found that short before and after case studies work really well rather than the longer form case studies. We find that people tend to read them more if they're shorter. So I'd really recommend condensing your case studies if you can, so to increase the likelihood that people are going to read them. And then during the week, we wanted to demonstrate our impact since last year's Big Give. We chose to focus on one project per newsletter on each day of the week. So again, we shared quotes from people that we've supported, video testimonies, and examples of how specific donations could fund specific actions. We found that overall, we repurposed a lot of our content across our different platforms. So as we have very limited communications resource, rather than creating loads of different content as we did a few years ago, we decided to just really hone in on the very best of our impact content and changed the format and edited it for different platforms. So we found that that helped save time, and we think it was more impactful overall. And yeah, just a quick mention that was all of our communication stuff, but then our fundraising team also organized all of these amazing events before and during the campaign week. And we know a lot of donations came from these events as well. So yeah, it was definitely a team effort. And yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Some really great tips again there. I like the thing about putting the banner on the homepage. And someone else in the comments has said they really like that countdown as well. But also some great tips about like streamlining some work with small teams, like in terms of content and making it small amounts of content that you can repurpose in different ways, which is a great tip as well for small teams. Thank you, Emma. Now we'll move on to Dan from the British Liver Trust. Again, he's getting another award winner from last year, and he's going to be talking about what they did last year and how they made a success of their campaign. Over to you, Dan.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, I'll just share this. That all visible? Everyone okay? Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we were really, really delighted as well, not only exceeding our target last year, but also being an award winner. And our award was for exceptional planning. So hopefully these slides will just kind of indicate the work that we did before Big Give to kind of make it as much of a success as possible. So just a quick bit about who we are as a charity. So we're the leading charity for adults affected by liver disease and liver cancer in the UK. We provide information and support to anyone affected by liver disease, including liver cancer. So that's through our website, our helpline, our online and face-to-face support groups, and various publications that we create. We work to increase awareness of liver disease and liver cancer to a wider audience. We're campaigning for earlier detection of liver disease and better treatment for all types of liver disease. And we work in partnership with healthcare professionals and key stakeholders to drive up the standards of care and encourage more research in this area. And our work at the moment is increasingly more and more important. To put it quite bluntly, we're in a liver disease crisis in the UK right now. The graph on the right-hand side just indicates that most major diseases are kind of going down in numbers in regards to death rates, whereas liver disease is going up and up and up, 4 times higher in most cases that compared to other major diseases at the moment. 90% of liver disease cases are linked to alcohol, weight, and viral hepatitis. So it just means that these liver diseases, the way of getting liver disease can be prevented if it's caught early enough, and your liver can reverse the damage up to a point. So a lot of our work is around awareness and trying to make that clear to the general public, but also work to kind of campaign to government to kind of put things in place to make sure that things can be done in medical settings to kind of scan in advance. In the UK, we're currently at the highest obesity levels in Europe, with 2/3 of adults being overweight. And before the pandemic, more than 1 in 5 people in the UK were drinking alcohol in a way that could harm their liver. And everything would suggest that during pandemic and now post-pandemic that those numbers are probably increasing. And the sad reality is that 3/4 of people with liver disease are diagnosed with cirrhosis in a hospital setting when it's often too late for effective intervention or treatment. So let's say for us, it's a lot about awareness and trying to get liver disease caught earlier. So a lot of what we do is based around our Love Your Liver events. So we have a unit that goes around the UK doing roadshows around major cities, villages, Houses of Parliament, wherever we can go to kind of raise awareness about liver disease. We allow people the opportunity to learn more about their liver and ways of improving their liver health. On our unit, we also give people the opportunity to have a liver screener where they answer questions about their liver health, and then the opportunity to have a liver scan, so they can get a free liver scan, which is a free painless test, which is carried out by one of our specialist liver nurses, and then they get a reading which kind of gives them an idea as to whether their liver is healthy or whether they need to make changes or whether they need to see their GP for more information. So this is a key part of our role and what we do. And before 2022, we'd seen over 15,000 people and scanned their livers in that time. And 18% of those people we scanned had possible liver damage and needed further tests. So just on emphasizing how important this is for us as a charity, but also for the general public. Now, the reality is that our old unit was coming to the end of its life. Bits were falling apart. It wasn't working how we needed it to. So it was made clear that we wanted to kind of use the Big Give as an opportunity to raise as much money as possible to purchase a new unit for us to then be able to use for 2023. So I started at the British Liver Trust last April, and one of the first tasks I was given was to run and manage our Big Give campaign, which was quite daunting when I had no previous experience of running a Big Give campaign, and I knew very little about Big Give, to be perfectly honest, beforehand. It also didn't help that we've been doing it as a charity for 4 years and had exceeded target every year. So just a bit of pressure on my shoulders to make sure that we kind of did the same again when it was my first time managing it. There was also a lot of apprehension around people's ability to give last year. The cost of living crisis, pandemic, we were really concerned as to how we were going to raise that money, and if our supporters could help hit the targets we needed to this year. We were really lucky with the relationships we have with our pledges. So we had 3 pledges last year, 2 of which had pledged the year before, and a new major donor pledger who decided to step forward and help us last year, which was amazing. And our chief executive is a big advocate for Big Give. So she is always on the lookout for kind of people who can fit that requirement to pledge for Big Give for us. So she's built up some great relationships with our pledges for last year, and the same for this year as well. So that meant we had £15,000 in pledges, and we were really happy that the Reed Foundation came in with £7,500 of champion funding, which meant that we had £22,500 to raise in online donations during Big Give. So the big thing that I wanted to do when I started planning our Big Give campaign is to try and get everyone at the charity involved. So we are a national charity, but we are a very small charity. So we have about 31 full-time members of staff. But we knew as a fundraising collective that if we could get everyone within the charity involved, there'll be more buy-in, more people interested in sharing the stories on social, on emails, friends, families, anyone who they have conversations with on a day-to-day basis. So we started that engagement by taking over one of our all staff meetings, our online meetings that we hold every fortnight, just to highlight why Big Give is so important to us as a charity, and the little things that each individual could do for us in the lead up to the campaign, during the campaign, and after the campaign. We sent all of our staff the appropriate links that they needed to share, set up a kind of small email template or script if they were speaking to people face to face, to kind of give them key messaging, which we needed to share consistently. And I say, thankfully, Big Give has become kind of ingrained in us as an organization. So a lot of the staff had a good understanding of what Big Give was, how it worked, and how it can help us as a charity. So a lot of that work was already done previously. So it was just kind of setting the stall as to what this campaign was about, our targets and our key messaging for this year. And say, it was very telling that every day, as soon as we launched Big Give, I was getting WhatsApp messages every 5 minutes from staff members telling me that our target, our online donations had gone up by an extra 500, 1,000, 2,000, to a point where I was told by another staff member that we'd hit target before I've even looked myself. So it just showed how kind of engaged everyone was, which was brilliant. So we kind of kept messaging quite consistent about 2 months before to our kind of mid and major donors and previous Big Give donors about the fact that we were doing Big Give again, what we were focusing our campaign on, but our kind of general mailing to all of our supporters started as part of our monthly newsletter. So at the start of October, we kind of let them know that we were going to be taking part and what our messaging and the kind of need for our new mobile unit to increase more awareness. We also coincided our annual supporter update during Big Give week. So that's an online update that we give, just letting our supporters know what we've achieved in the year, what our plans are for the next year. And we thought it was good to kind of put Big Give into this, as we had a kind of engaged audience who we could kind of really set the stall as to what we needed to do. And as Big Give would have already started, we can give them an update as to what has already been donated and what more we need. With our social, we did lots of this only 1 week to go, watch this space, set your alarms, that type of thing, to kind of make sure that people were aware of what the kind of opening time was for Big Give and how long they had to donate. And we also, like the others, just kind of adapted our website. So the homepage just was all about Big Give. We had a news section about the Big Give campaign and what we were going to be doing, with kind of more detail coming the day of Big Give. So then our social media. So we posted about our campaign 45 times across our social media platforms, and those posts were viewed more than 55,000 times and received nearly 5,000 likes, shares and comments. We kind of focused our social part of it on a kind of, the first part of our Big Give week was just doubling your donation, really hitting that message hard. And then as we went through the week, we kind of shared more case studies, more kind of stats as to why our roadshow is so important. We had a mock-up made of what our new unit may look like, which ended up being really, really powerful for us, because it really kind of engaged people to show them that, look, this is what we can kind of purchase if you can help support this week for us. And that was brilliant. It made such a difference. And we also had some of our key supporters do their own video messages to their followers, which was really, really powerful for us as well. We then had a series of emails throughout Big Give week, just with updates following a similar kind of template to our social. So first part of it, doubling your donation, and then some case studies and stories and stats around the roadshow. And then again, as we got into the weekend, the final few days, updates of where we were with donations and what more we needed. And on our website, we took over the homepage. We had pop-ups come up throughout asking people if they consider doubling their donation and going to the Big Give website. And then on our donation page, we had another pop-up asking people to consider making that donation through Big Give instead of through our website directly. And we were, I think, we had over 100 people go onto our donation webpage during that week, and only 10 people decided not to use the Big Give link and donate directly. So that was quite successful for us to do that as well. We then had our annual supporter update online, and we also had a Christmas quiz that we did in the final full day of Big Give, which we mainly do with our volunteers, but it was a good way of kind of engaging with them and also just, again, fitting in that Big Give message in case we needed any further donations. And we also decided that it was the year to reintroduce an in-person event. So one of our trustees was really generous in allowing us to host our supporters in the Grand Hall at the Old Bailey in London. So it's a great opportunity after the pandemic for us to kind of meet some of our key contacts face to face, allow our kind of team to update our supporters on our progress and plans, and really push that Big Give message again in a really grand venue, which was an amazing opportunity. So yeah, so we our overall target was 45,000. We raised with gift aid just short of £59,000. It was an amazing, we were quite slow to start, but we really kind of took off into the weekend with the donations that came in. We had a 59% increase on donation numbers compared to the previous year. 44% of those donors were supporters giving their first gift to us, and 33% of the donors were brand new supporters to us, which was brilliant. And our emails were opened by over 55,000 supporters. And we still, even after we hit our target, we still had another 30 donations come in, which totaled over £5,000, which was just brilliant and really kind of, I think, showed the engagement we created with our supporters during the week, because it's very easy for us to hit target and be like, right, we'll close it up now. But to still get 30 donations after that was just brilliant. And then our learnings from the week. So many doors were opened for us because of our internal engagement and people having conversations that didn't think would lead anywhere, but actually created some quite large donations because of it. So I think that was a key part of our success last year, was that internal engagement. Having a tangible item to fundraise for made a big difference. Being able to show our supporters what they could put their money to in a kind of tangible element made a big difference for us. And especially that story of this old unit has done so much for us, help us with this new unit and see how much more we can do was brilliant. Like I say, we did struggle the first few days with some larger donations coming in. So we're really making a concerted effort this year to make sure we have some big donors lined up for the first 2 days. So our target doesn't look so daunting to those who can only give 10, 20 pounds. So that's a big part of what we're lining up next for this year. The in-person event, although really important, especially after the past couple of years not being able to do it, put a huge amount of strain on myself and the team, on top of what is already a stressful lead up to Big Give. So although we're glad we did it, it's not something that we're implementing for this year because we really want to focus purely on the task at hand. I'd say flexibility is key. There are so many messages that we change during Big Give from what we plan to send. Like I say, learning how important and powerful that mock-up image of our new unit was meant we changed a lot of our communications for later in the week because it was driving so many more donations. And I guess planning never stops for Big Give. Even when you're over the last one, it starts straight away. And what we've found, especially for this year, is we've got a lot of first-time donors and a lot of new donors who we've needed to kind of engage with at a much earlier level. We were very lucky that we can show our supporters our new unit, what our new unit has done, and thank our supporters and donors for what they've helped us achieve. And that's been really powerful this year, and hopefully will just lead to an even bigger Big Give this year. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. That was a really great presentation. Yeah, again, some really great advice. I think our webinar on Friday also picked up on the mock-ups, which as a great piece of content, but also like the advice about just capturing as many donations on your own website as possible to avoid like people missing out on the matching and you missing out on those donations which could be matched. So really great advice again, and a great presentation. Thank you all, Maureen, Emma and Dan, for sharing those experiences with all of us today. I've learned a lot, and I hope that attendees have also picked up some new tips. We have some questions, so I'll move straight on to them because I think people really do want to hear from you about in relation to the questions they have. Again, this is for anyone to answer, so whoever feels free, whoever wants to jump in first, please do so. But there are two questions basically about limited capacity. So do any of you have tips on how to run an effective campaign and what to prioritize with the limited capacity and resource? And yeah, and a similar question is, do you have any advice for a small charity? They don't have any specific comms or marketing department, so it's a one-person fundraising team, it sounds like. So does any of our panelists today have advice on how to manage those limited resources?
So one thing I would say is you might not have that capacity, and you might not have that kind of marketing or comms team, but you will have, you know, your existing supporters, and you might have you know, a board or some trustees or just sort of other members of staff in your charity. So I would kind of use as much or lean on that support as much as possible, because they're really keen. They're also really keen for you to take part and, you know, get your target. So maybe have a meeting with some of them and use the resources that they've got to hand, because there's lots and lots of different ways that they can help them get involved and help get that message out there. And they might have some, you know, they might have some networks that can then help you with things like comms or marketing, you know, and that sort of strategy. So you might get some support that way. So definitely use what you've got. Yeah, because they're a kind of big asset, really.
Great, yeah, some really great advice.
I think the same as well. I think, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've listened to a few of the Big Give webinars from last year, and when doing so, I was like, "Oh, we don't have that capacity. We can't do this. We can't do that. It's how are we going to achieve target with the resources we have?" But I think we touched on it before we went live earlier. It's like you just have to kind of work with what you do have, and you can't. There's no point like pushing yourselves too hard to do something which isn't realistic. It's better to focus on the small wins you can do with the team you have, or as an individual that you can do, and really focus on that. I think knowing what channels work for you really well is helpful as well. So if you know that email is a key kind of contact point with your supporters, then go with that. And maybe don't worry about as much social if it's not a key area for you guys. But I think, yeah, it's kind of, it's so easy to think really big for Big Give, but the reality is you kind of just have to try and hone it in with what you can actually manage.
I think that's some great advice about focusing on the channels that you do or where your donors are. So there are so many different social media channels now. It's don't try and hit all of them for this campaign if your donors aren't there. Just think about where they are. Maybe it's a corporate that you're targeting, and maybe then focus on LinkedIn, or as Dan said, email could be key. For one thing that I can share with everyone on today is that from the data we have is that email is definitely still the biggest driver of donation. So that is still one key thing I'd say is you should be focusing on or have lined up to reach out to donors with.
I was just going to say this year, I'm probably just going to try and pick one or two really good impact stories because we're fundraising for 4 different projects. I'm going to try and pick a story of someone who's been involved with a number of those projects to kind of show the holistic support that we offer. Whereas in previous years, I've done one story per project. I'm going to try and pick like 1 or 2 that show the journey of homelessness that someone's been through, and how they've been involved in a number of those key projects. So that's something. Also, I think in my presentation, I touched on day in the life videos. We found them to be really effective for reaching new people that maybe don't follow us on social media, because we found that the Instagram platform is quite good at pushing out reels to people that don't follow you. So you could definitely try doing more short form video content as well. It worked really well for us.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Emma. That's really helpful as well, especially with Instagram. We have a question specifically for Maureen. What did the sharing pack for pledges include?
So we put together just some really handy sort of social media posts. So for across different sort of mediums. So if you use Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever kind of was or Instagram. So we put together some little posts on different things. So it would be why I'm supporting. So we'd sort of almost write it for them. So why I'm supporting Hearts Young Homeless, or we would give them, some key information. I'm supporting them because they support, 10,000 young people every year, or, we would give them information on this is what your donation funds. So they were all quite different. And then they could then cherry pick which ones that they wanted to then sort of put out. So we kind of did the work for them, and all they had to do was effectively post it. So yeah, make it easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you have any corporates in your network that you want them to reach out to, maybe their employees or their own network, make it as easy as possible, as Maureen says. Put all of like the sort of messaging and things that they can put out, write it for them, so they just have to copy and paste it in, because the hardest thing for them would be thinking about how to message it. So make it as easy as possible, as Maureen says. It gives them less excuse not to post anything. This is a question for Emma, but I think also Dan, you touched on events as well. So how did you or your fundraising team encourage and facilitate donations made at your events? Did you use a QR code? Did you have cash buckets, or was there something else that you did to sort of engage with those people at the events?
Yeah, so I designed some posters that summarized our Brighton projects and handed those out that had a QR code that linked to the Big Give donation page. So we were kind of just trusting that people would donate. And I think, yeah, a lot of people did come via that route. We also did do cash buckets. All of the ticket sales from the events were added to our Give Big part. One thing that we've noticed so we did the Brighton Jazz Festival last year and we did it again this year. And something that came out of that was that we wish we'd invested in a card reader. So we did have people coming up to us and giving us and donating in our cash bucket, which was great. But we also had a lot of people coming to us with cards that weren't able to donate. So yeah, I think that's something that we're going to look into for next year for sure.
Yeah, we use QR code everywhere. So for our face-to-face event, we had kind of 2 big TV screens, which had a slide deck with a lot of what we showed on social media, but with that QR code, and any speaker that spoke at the event highlighted why the QR code was there and got people to get their phones out. And the same with our online events. We had specific points in our presentations where the QR code was visible, and we take a few moments asking people to just scan the QR code there and then, so they had it on their phone ready to donate. So that was our main areas.
Thanks, guys. And while we're on the subject, we do have a question about how people or charities can process cash donations. So if you are having an event of collecting cash donations, what you'll need someone to do is don't collect those cash proceeds and then make the donation to your Christmas challenge page using their personal card. I would advise obviously consulting with your finance team about how you can correctly show this in your accounts and correctly reimburse them. But it would then, you need to collect the cash donations, and someone working at the charity would then need to make the donation with a personal card, and you need to reimburse them. And also, does QR code go throughout the Big Give website? So I imagine like all of your QR codes, they would just link straight to your campaign page.
Yeah.
Great. And then we have a question anyone can answer, but if anyone use direct mailings, do you know how successful they were, and was there a specific group that you targeted with them?
So we did our direct mailing mostly to sort of individual givers, community contacts, so churches, Rotary clubs, that sort of thing. And it's we haven't specifically looked at that one campaign as in, that's what drove the donations. We know overall that we had a number of new supporters and what percentage of that was individual givers, but we don't know if the actual direct mail campaign generated that. So that's so that's what I'd say about that. But so we did that more, as I say, more to individuals, community groups, that sort of thing, rather than our corporate supporters. We had a different route to get our messaging out to them.
I know we were talking about it before. Dan was talking to us about how they have a direct mailing campaign that runs after the Christmas challenge for fundraising donations that way. And I think one thing that we would also advise charities is that if there are donors that just cannot give online, that they don't have access to a card, they just don't have the facilities to make that online donation, is that you don't also want to alienate them. So if there are donors that just cannot give online, it's not worth pushing them to making them jump through hurdles to make a donation online. And it's obviously you want to keep them as a long-term supporter. So don't push donors if they really aren't able to, and just engage them in a different way or through a different campaign. We have a question, sorry, just looking down the list. We have a question for Emma about the event that you ran. How do you process ticket sales funds through the Christmas challenge page? Was that based on trust? Did you ask them to show any evidence they made a donation?
So I think most of our event ticket sales were done via Eventbrite. So obviously once the deadline had passed to buy a ticket, we just extracted that money, and then someone in our team donated it to the Big Give pot. Is that what you meant by the question?
I think that is, yeah. And Rebecca, you asked a similar question about card readers, and that would be the same thing where a card reader would probably be linked to the charity's account. The money would be paid to the charity's account, and the charity would have to give it to someone to donate then with a personal card. Just for security reasons and auditing purposes, we can't have charities donating to their own campaign. We have a question also about GDPR and emailing, thanking people. So when emailing people to say thank you, what did you do if you didn't have the consent to contact them by GDPR? I don't know if anyone maybe saw that some donors may have given to their Christmas challenge page, but opted out of being in their comms, but then they were on another list on their database. I see Maureen, you're nodding along.
Yeah, so yeah, we were really keen to make sure that we did have consent to get in touch with the donor. So if they had donated through our Big Give and then said yes to consenting, and they'd left their email address and all of that sort of stuff, then we thanked them via email because it was the quickest way. If we didn't have that, we looked on our CRM system to see if we had another means to contact them. So if we didn't have email, did we have their address, and did we have consent to do that? In which case we sent them a letter. And where we didn't have any consent, obviously we then couldn't personally thank them, but we did lots of thanking kind of on our social media channels, on our website, that sort of thing, you know. So yeah. And in our newsletter as well, we did a follow-up newsletter to say what the campaign had raised. So so if they had access to that or watched our social media, then they would know kind of, you know, they would see us sort of thanking them. So yeah, so we were really keen to make sure that we didn't breach any of those laws.
Thank you, Maureen. And this is a question again for everyone. How far in advance do you put the Christmas challenge campaign info on your website?
About 6 weeks, I think. So now.
Yeah, this week.
Yeah, we did it. We're going to do it slightly later. We're going to email our newsletter list at the start of October. But we'll probably wait till mid-October before we put it live on our website. Just because our website is prime position for a lot of things, and there's a lot of other departments that are kind of desperate to share a message right now. So we'll be holding off ever so slightly, but still be shouting about it in other ways.
Great. Sorry, another question for Emma about your mention of Facebook ads and spending. Was it right that you just spent £14 and the person would like to know what audience were you targeting for this, and were they people that have already engaged with your work or people you thought you might be interested in your work?
Yeah, so we did only spend £14 and the reach was about 8,000 people, which I thought was crazy good value for money. I don't know if we're gonna have the same reach this year. I'm definitely gonna try, but yeah, so we reached about 8,000 people, and then we got 53 link clicks to the Big Give website. So the cost per click was about 26p. So yeah, it was really worth doing. The audience we selected, I thought that I'd only selected Brighton and Hove, but when I looked back on it, I'd actually selected a UK-wide audience. I think the age range was really wide, like 20 to 65. But we did target it to reach people that were interested in charity and social causes. I think that's one of the options that you can select. So I was really surprised at how much reach it had for such a low spend. But I have run ads in the past that weren't that successful. We were promoting a video rather than an image, and I feel like whenever I've done video ads, they tend to get way more traction than just simply sharing an image. And the video that we shared was our 10th anniversary video, which I think is 2 minutes long, but I only shared the clip of someone that we support, speaking about how we supported them. So it was only like a 30 or 40-second clip that I used for the ad. So yeah, I would recommend doing it.
Great reach. I got one last question before we wrap up, and that's for Maureen, from Julie Higgins, who just wants to know, when stewarding donors to find out how they like to give, what exactly did you do, and was this corporate or individual?
Yeah, so I look after the corporate sort of side of things. So for me, in terms of businesses, I very much would get lots of meetings in the diary at the beginning of the year, with some of our kind of warm and active sort of supporters, and people that you really want to tell, you want to talk to about the big give, so specifically pledgers, but also just a broad range really, and so I would do a lot of that stuff. I would do a lot of that stewarding, so face-to-face meetings really, or via Teams, if they were too busy, give them an update on how our campaign went last year, and then talk to them about the year ahead, and talk to them about what their plans are, because it's much better for them if they're going to donate some money, or you really want to specifically for them to be a pledger, that you talk to them about that early doors, so that they don't get caught out, or they already go off and do something else. So they really appreciate you telling them in advance. And then just in terms of general sort of corporate supporters, if I've ever met with any of them, I would have a list of things coming up for the year ahead, and Big Give would be in there with sort of the dates. So you're kind of telling them it way in advance, and people would all go down the list and say, oh, you're doing this event, that event, oh, what's the Big Give, so especially new supporters. So I had a new supporter that I went to see last week, and they went straight to the Big Give. They said, what's that? Never heard of that. So that was one way of sort of doing it. And then we did I do a dates for your diary, so that would go out on our newsletter, or I would send it out via email to our supporters so that they know what's coming. I also do things like a half-year update, so thanking our corporates for their support, send them a nice little case study, maybe a little Kit Kat that could eat whilst they're reading it, and what's ahead, so Big Give would be in that. So lots of different ways to sort of tell them about it.
Amazing. Well, that is a really helpful way to end, with some great advice about how to engage with corporate donors. I just want to thank Maureen, Emma, and Dan again for joining us and sharing their ideas, experiences with all of us today. It's been really, really great presentations and really helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of attendees and also for us. I just want to plug 2 webinars coming up. So the 2 social media webinars on Wednesday and Thursday, both at 12 p.m. midday. So please sign up for that. And we look forward to all of you joining us for those webinars. And with that in mind, as ever, if you have any questions in the meantime, contact us at hello@biggive.org. But I wish you all a happy Monday. Thank you all for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.